Hello, I'm Jairo Ledesma, and this is my critical autobiography. I was born in Buenaventura, Colombia in 1974. Buenaventura is one of the main ports of the country. It lies on the Pacific coast. Both my parents were born in Colombia. My father was born in a city called Popayán, and my mother was from Cali. They met in Cali in 1972 and were married a few months later. On September 19th, 1979, my mother, sister, and I boarded a plane from Cali, Colombia to make our way over to New York City. My father arrived a few months later. Both my parents were blue collar workers. My father worked primarily in restaurants, and my mother, having graduated from Wilford Beauty Academy, was a licensed beautician. The idea of coming to the United States was my father's. The hope was that we would be in New York for a couple of years and then make our way to Denmark. My father, having traveled around the world on a merchant ship, wanted us to live in Denmark. He had several contacts there, and the dream was to one day move there. My parents knew that in Colombia, both my sister and I would have limited opportunities. As soon as we arrived in New York City, we started to attend public schools. They were elated since they never had formal education. My mother made it up to second grade, and my father made it up to fifth grade. We settled in the area of Jamaica, Queens. My first school was Public School 82. There I attended kindergarten. We later moved to Hollis, Queens, where I attended Public School 35. I attended PS 35 from grades 1 to 4. The idea was to graduate from that school and go on to the local middle school. However, on July 7th, 1983, my father passed away. My sister, my mother, and I had to move back to Jamaica, Queens, and live with a family friend for over a year. Once we moved back to Jamaica, Queens, I attended PS 86. My sixth grade teacher was Mr. Cohen. He was one of the best teachers I've ever had. We were a gifted class, and it's a class that I always remember. After completion of PS 86, I went on to Junior High School 217 in Briarwood, Queens. At 217, I was in what was called back then the SP class, or gifted class. There, I realized that I was with a group of students unlike any other group I had been with before. There were students who made it to the top high schools in all of New York. At the time, there were Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, and Brooklyn Tech. After finishing at Junior High School 217, we had to go to our zone school. Some people applied to the top schools and made it, and they were able to go to those schools. However, if you did not make it, you went to your zone school. I went to Hillcrest High School for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. The experience there was transformative, but not in the way that we would think. At the time, Hillcrest High School was one of the most dangerous schools in all of New York City. In fact, there were several fights, muggings, and even a murder. I remember vividly, while at Hillcrest High School, asking a college counselor that I wanted to attend Syracuse University. She asked me what my grades were. I told her, around an 80. She turned to me and said, "You'll never make it." I decided then that I would not attend college. I thought about going to the Marine Corps, the Navy, or just simply going to work. The following year, a new college counselor was there, and he asked me, "How come you don't apply to college?" And I said, "I'll never make it." He looked at me and said, "Go ahead and apply." The new college counselor insisted that I apply to college. He told me about a program at St. John's University where they took people like me, he said. I didn't know what he meant by that, but I applied. 2 weeks later, they called me in for an interview. 2 weeks later, they asked me for my mother's taxes. And 2 weeks after that, I was accepted to St. John's University. St. John's is a private institution, a private Catholic institution located in Jamaica, Queens. I attended St. John's through a program called the Higher Education Opportunity Program. This program provides minority students and low income students tuition at private institutions in New York State. The HEOP program provided counselors, tutoring, and support for about 60 students. The students attended a summer program and then were admitted into the university. I graduated from St. John's University with a Bachelor's of Science in Communication in 1996. I then continued my studies there and graduated with a Master's of Sociology in 2003. I moved to Florida and attended FIU, where I graduated in 2014 with a Master's in History. I enrolled in a PhD program in 2017, also trying to obtain a PhD in history, and now I've transferred to this program, Teaching and Learning, in the spring of 2023. Once I attended Hillcrest High School and later St. John's, that's when I started to notice that I was different, that we were different, that those students who attended Hillcrest specifically were a different kind of student. When I was at St. John's University, people would ask, "What school are you from?" And I would reply, "Hillcrest High School." One professor told me, "What is that?" And I said, "It's a school down the hill." St. John's was up the hill. They told me, "Is it an urban school?" I said, "I don't know what you mean by that, but I guess so." I started to realize that my educational experience was vastly different than the students who attended St. John's, most of which were students from Catholic and private institutions. For me, the word urban communities means that students from urban schools are in fact different. But for me, it's not for the reasons that one would think. Yes, there's issues of equity. Yes, there's issues of disparities. But for me, really, coming from an urban school myself, for me, it means having a different experience. Those experiences are not necessarily bad, but they're just different. For me, there were issues of equity. There were issues of disparities in my schools. However, we did form a common bond. The bond that we formed in New York City schools was one of perseverance, meaning that all the students there worked really hard to achieve sometimes the unachievable, sometimes the impossible. Audio clip 19. When I hear people use the word urban, I immediately know they're referring to the type of school I went to. The majority of the people at my school were Black and Latino. They came from low income, and they came from tough neighborhoods. As a white upper class Latino male, straight male, I understand my privilege. I am very aware that just by being white, I have been afforded opportunities that even some of my close friends have not. I understand that my current situation, economic situation, allows me the power and the opportunities that others are not afforded. I also understand that some people may look upon me as having that privilege and not understanding that privilege. I have to understand that I have to work a little harder to make people understand that I see them, not just in the physical sense, but I see their experiences. I see their struggle. It's important for educators and people who help other people to understand that. This ability to see beyond what they are noticing in front of them is crucial to understanding the people we teach. It is also important for us to understand our own identity, and I understand mine fully.